And it looks like we've got another dry day in store for us for your Thursday night. Expect mostly clear skies, low temperatures falling into the lower 60s, and we could see gusty winds as high as 15 miles per hour. I'm meteorologist Emily Owen on your home for ESPN Radio 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
This is Brent Musburger's VSiN Action Update on 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Simple Green is perfect for making your auto, RV, cycling, boating, and other sporting equipment look like new. Visit them at simplegreen.com.
College football, Alabama and Miami meeting at Mercedes-Benz Stadium on Saturday. The Crimson Tide favored by 19 points. They're the number one team in the country. On the money line, Alabama minus 1,100. The Hurricanes plus 700 with an over-under of 61.5. Auburn facing Akron at Jordan-Hare Stadium. Tigers are favored by 37. On the money line, Auburn minus 30,000. Akron plus 10,000 with an over-under of 55. NFL, Atlanta taking on Philadelphia September 12th to kick off the season. The Falcons favored by 3.5 points. Atlanta minus 190. The Eagles plus 170. For VSiN.com, I'm Tony Desiri, 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Log on today, 97.7ESPN.com. Welcome to Talkin Ball with Scott Theisen and Drew DeArmond. Call into the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline now, 256-576-4977. That's 256-576-4977. Now, here's Scott and Drew.
And just like that, we are off and running. And so is college football in the state of Alabama. Last night, UAB Jacksonville State from the Crampton Bowl.
Lathered up to stop the run, look for Johnson to potentially keep it.
He'll flip it out. Johnson, Sanders to the pylon for the easy touchdown. That counts as a touchdown pass. Johnston getting it done on that possession with completions of 46 and 30 yards. And the band's playing for UAB.
To over-respond to defend one play, then you get the counter plays off of that. You see the good crack outside. The second time we've seen
the UAB Blazers taking on the Jacksonville State Gamecocks last night from the Crampton Bowl. And UAB opens up the season with a 31-0 win over Jacksonville State. Tyler Johnson III, 17 of 21, 320 yards, 2 touchdowns for the Blazers. Jermaine Brown Jr., 14 carries, 78 yards, and a score for UAB as they move to 1-0 on the season. Welcome into our Thursday edition of Talking Ball right here on 97.7 ESPN The Zone with Scott Theisen, Drew DeArmond. Glad you are with us. College football underway in the state last night. Folks, we have got a ton of games on the docket for this evening. If you are a huge fan of college football, tonight is your night. You do get SEC football. Tennessee and the Josh Heupel era gets underway, 7 o'clock on the SEC network. They are taking on Bowling Green. And then Minnesota and Ohio State going to get a nationally ranked contest tonight, as Ohio State will travel to Minnesota. And in case you are wondering about this one, 4th-ranked Ohio State, a 13.5-point favorite on the road at Minnesota this evening. We will get our first look at C.J. Stroud, the new Ohio State quarterback. We'll get a look at him this evening. You're also going to get the Gus Malzahn era underway tonight, I believe they are on Saturday. I looked at it, and it's USF playing tonight, not UCF. The Gus Malzahn era will get underway later this week, but just not tonight. Going over some of the other games, Samford, the Bulldogs, will open the season tonight, taking on Tennessee State. My bad, UCF does open it. They're going to take on Boise State, 6 p.m. on ESPN. thought I got that one right. And indeed we did. So, plenty of college football to get to. 256-576-4977. Give us a call on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. What are you looking forward to in tonight's Tennessee Bowling Green game? Obviously, Bowling Green not a very good football team at all. And that is why if you look at the opening line, Tennessee was favored by 34 in this one. Bowling Green, not a very good football team. Josh Heupel and company should come out and look impressive this evening. Going to see a lot of offensive firepower. Last year, Joe Milton did exactly what the experts predicted him to do against Minnesota when he was playing for Michigan. Came out, and after week 1, man, everybody was ready to hand Milton the Heisman Trophy because he looked that impressive in his start with Michigan. Tonight, he gets that start wearing the orange and white for Tennessee. So what are the expectations, Vols fans, that you want to see from tonight? What do you want to see from Tennessee? We saw them in their scrimmage in spring. We saw what they did. They really went fast. We'll see that tonight as well. Just curious. 256-576-4977. If you look around the SEC come Saturday, La Monroe going to travel to Kentucky at 11 a.m. on the SEC Network. La Monroe, remember, that is Coach Terry Bowden, Rich Rodriguez, traveling up to Lexington to take on Kentucky. You got Rice in Arkansas at 1 o'clock, Alabama, Miami, Florida, 2:30, La Tech, Mississippi State at 3, Missouri hosting Central Michigan at 3. That is some of the SEC games on Saturday. You also got East South Carolina taking on Eastern Illinois at 6. The Brian Harsin era gets underway against Akron at 6. Georgia, Clemson at 6:30. That's the biggie. Florida hosting Florida Atlantic. And one of the games in college football on Saturday that could be very, very intriguing, simply because it's two ranked teams. It's Texas and Louisiana. Billy Napier and his Louisiana squad taking on Texas. And it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out as well. Because you got the new era of Steve Sarkisian coming in ranked. You got Billy Napier and Louisiana coming in ranked. So the expectations around Steve Sarkisian and Texas are very high. They want to show something. Steve Sarkisian wants to prove something in his opener with Texas. We all saw what Billy Napier and Louisiana did last year, going on the road and beating Iowa State in that opener. Iowa State now a top 10 preseason team, so that is huge. That game right there, to me, I know we have Georgia and Clemson in the night. I know Alabama's taking on Miami and Florida, both ranked teams. But that Louisiana-Texas game at 3:30, Drew, to me, is very, very intriguing. Because if Billy Napier goes on the road and beats Texas in Steve Sarkisian's opener,
yeah, it's going to be a dangerous one for Sark, no doubt about it. I mean, it'll be a quality win. It's not going to be one of those things that I think will be taken lightly if Texas can take care of business because of how good a program Napier has already built and what Coach has done over in Louisiana. And certainly Louisiana's not going to sneak up on them kind of maybe how they did Iowa State last year. But certainly it's not going to be an easy opener for Sark and where they stand. Certainly, they've got some good players and some talent. but I don't think they're Oklahoma by any stretch of the imagination. So they're going to have to be focused, and they're going to have to be ready to go. Certainly, I think playing the game at home, everybody should be pumped up and excited, and I don't think they're going to be overlooking these guys, especially considering Sark knows Napier well from their days working for Saban. So this is not going to be a situation where, with Tom Herman, where you kind of question the preparation. I think Sark and his team will be ready to play, and that's why I think Texas will win the game. But I still think it'll be a situation where Louisiana can play with them for at least into the third quarter. I don't think it'll be a blowout by any stretch, and I may be surprised by that. Sark his team may come out with their hair on fire, but I still think that Louisiana has enough good players and a good enough coaching staff to hold their own with Texas. Yeah. I'm thinking more, along the lines of maybe a 38-23 type ball game where it's really competitive. But I still think when you take into account they're at DK Royal Stadium and that. And with Louisiana coming off back-to-back 10-win seasons, which I think is that's never happened in the history of the school. I just think when you look at the situations, and I think Texas is pretty healthy. I don't think they've come in too banged up, even though I will say I'm not sure how talented defensively they are. But I would say that Texas is in a position where they should get a win there, and it would be a quality one for Sark, in his first game. But I want to say one other thing because I just got confirmation via a good friend of mine. I want to pay homage to someone that meant a lot to this radio station and meant a lot to Wes Neighbors. He certainly meant a lot to Steve Moulton. I was fortunate enough to feature him on my show when his roommate Kenny Stabler passed away several years ago from cancer. But we have now officially lost Jimmy Fuller.
Yeah, Jacksonville State released that late. They released that yesterday. Did Jacksonville State? Mm-hmm. And if you want to, you can head to our webpage, 977ESPN.com. And Jacksonville State sent out a release yesterday, and we have that release on our website. So feel free to head there and read all about the accomplishments of one Coach Fuller.
Yeah, he played at the University of Alabama. He was the Birmingham native. He meant a lot to Coach Bryant. I know he was one of Coach Bryant's favorite players and guy that just and coaches. And he meant a lot to Jacksonville State. I mean, he was their head football coach, won a lot of football games. I think was part of 4 GSC titles. And then he was the athletic director in the last stage of his career there for several years. I think retiring after 2008. But he was Alabama's interim head coach 3 times. I mean, he was the offensive line coach under 3 administrations at Alabama. I believe his last year with the Crimson Tide was 1996. But Coach Fuller meant a lot to so many people and was so generous with us. He was one of these guys, if you called and left a voicemail, you were going to hear back from Coach Fuller. And he did a great job on our airwaves as well. Our thoughts and prayers go out to his wife, Marilyn, and his family. But they had moved to the state of Texas, but just hate to see it. It was COVID-related, but certainly Coach Fuller was a great man and someone that was a great representative of the University of Alabama, and we send all our thoughts and prayers out to his family.
And he's the 5th winningest coach at Jacksonville State. Mm-hmm. He compiled a 54-25 mark. His 77 team posted an 11-3 mark, and overall he coached the Gamecock football teams to 4 GSC championships, made 5 appearances in the NCAA Division II playoffs, and prior to his stint with the Gamecocks, he actually was the offensive coordinator in 75 under Clarkie Mayfield before being elevated to the head coaching spot in 1977, named the Gulf South Conference Coach of the Year 3 times, and was named the Regional Coach of the Year twice.
Yeah, and his 2 favorite places were the University of Alabama and Jacksonville State, and they meant a lot to him. And he was one of the great storytellers too. Yeah, one thing we're going to miss about having, and he came by our studios. I've met him in person, and he was such a humble and great person, and just we're going to miss him so much. And again, just thoughts and prayers out to the family.
All right, 7:15 here on a Thursday morning. And, man, we mentioned we were going to have a lot of college football. It started last night, UAB, Jacksonville State at the Crampton Bowl, and UAB proved too much for Jacksonville State. And if you're Jacksonville State, though, man, seems like they have been playing football all year, because remember, Jacksonville State, one of those FCS teams that played during the spring for real, not practicing and stuff like that. So they're coming off a season, short downtime for them. Zarek Cooper, their quarterback, 17 of 34, just 88 yards on the night. So the Blazers defense did exactly what they were supposed to do. And you know what? Jacksonville State's been prone to been able to pull some upsets off. If they were able to win that one last night, it would have been an upset, because UAB clearly the better team in that matchup last night.
Well, they were, and I will give Jacksonville State credit. They hung in there for the first half. They played really good defense, and it was a 10-0 game at halftime.
Yeah.
And, they gave up a late field goal after getting a punt blocked. They actually played really well on defense on the short change or the quick change when you have to get right back out there after UAB finally cashed one in the red zone. So that block punt was huge, though. It gave them a double-digit lead at halftime, and then UAB came out and started getting their ground game going. Plus, they hit a flea flicker. They were able to, finally hit some vertical pass plays, because UAB really, if you watch the game, on the first play of the game, they almost had a touchdown. It was just they couldn't quite connect on the deep ball, but he was open. And UAB just seemed like they were that close. They'd get a penalty, get a big play called back. I think a 50-plus yard throw and catch had been called back for holding in the first half when they were backed up inside the red zone. They had hit a deep ball that would have been in Jacksonville State territory. And then Jacksonville State, they just had a lot of trouble blocking UAB up front.
Yeah.
And protecting Cooper. And so it was just really a difficult game for Jacksonville State, because Bill Clark, everybody knows he came from Jacksonville State. John Gross was his offensive coordinator and got elevated to the head coaching job. You were just talking about Coach Fuller and kind of that succession plan there when he became head coach. Same thing at Jacksonville State, and it's one of those things where they were in each other's weddings. They've known each other for 34 years, and that's, I think, one of the reasons the game was played, because they know each other so well. But UAB in the second half really kind of imposed their will and won that game 31-0, and give Bill Clark a lot of credit. They don't get a chance to open Progressive Field, or protective. Sorry,
Protective Field.
Sorry,
yep.
UAB folks. Protective Field. Looks like a beautiful place. 47,500. They're showing all the pictures and the video and everything, and looks unbelievable. And they get a chance to bring in Freeze warning, Hugh Freeze and Liberty in that first game ever in that stadium. So should be an unbelievable environment. But that's not until October 2nd, because UAB is going to spend the first month or so on neutral field / the road. But certainly you got to give UAB a lot of credit for getting that shutout at the beautiful Crampton Bowl. Pretty decent crowd out there last night, not bad. And then now it doesn't get any easier for the Gamecocks. I believe they're on the road at Florida State the next week, and yet they've nearly beaten FSU before. But not an easy schedule beginning for John Gross. But again, they're going to focus on, getting back to the 1AA playoffs, and they should have a chance to do so, because when you see how they competed with UAB for that first half, at least defensively, I think Jacksonville State's pretty good. So when they play in their league, this schedule should benefit them if they don't get a bunch of guys hurt.
All right, the big game that's going on, I guess you could say within the SEC, because there's a lot of big games going on this weekend. Georgia and Clemson obviously is the headliner, 6:30 on ABC. Clemson, a 3-point favorite in that one. And you watch all the national shows and everybody's saying, well, who, because somebody's going to take an L in this one, and who can afford to take the L the most? Is it Clemson? Is it Georgia? If Clemson loses, their road is okay to get to the playoffs still, because they play in the ACC and it's a watered-down schedule, and the bumps ahead of them are not very big. If Georgia loses, it's a tough one because they have to slide through the SEC East, and then they'd have to play whoever comes out of the West, may it be Alabama or Texas A&M, to win the SEC championship. A lot of talk about who would lose this game and who would have a great path to get to the playoffs. But what about who wins this game? What does it say for whoever comes out on top in this game?
Well, I mean, whoever comes out on top is going to be the new number one team in America. I'm not necessarily guaranteeing they're going to jump over Alabama,
right?
But that's what everybody's going to say. They're going to say they're the best team in the country. We underestimated them. Oh my God, look how impressive they were taking on a team like this. Blah blah blah. You know, and whoever wins it, the quarterback, he's the Heisman Trophy favorite. You know, DJ Uiagalelei, you know, what a player he is. The seamless transition from the greatest quarterback we ever saw that only won one championship when he was supposed to go pro after he was a freshman. And then, you know, or if JT Daniels wins it, it's just going to – the Georgia fans will basically think they don't have to play the rest of the season, and that JT Daniels is going to win the Heisman, and, you know, he's going to be the new face, unlike Herschel, and he'll be right up there on Mount Rushmore with Herschel, and they're going to finally, you know, be able to get rid of their VHS tapes that were converted to DVDs and win a national championship. But because Kirby said the other day, it's just a matter of time. You know, he's basically anointed himself a national champion without winning it. I guess it's seeping into his brain too. That you don't have to win, you don't have to earn it. It's just something that you're rewarded because you pay $250,000 for a tight end. But I mean, who knows? I mean, we don't know. But I mean, certainly it's going to be a heck of a game with Clemson. I'm looking forward to it personally. I think it is two great football teams and two of the more talented teams in the country, and I admire them for doing what they're doing. And it's an old time rivalry anyway. I mean, they've played a lot. And they played around, I guess, 2013 and 14 was the last time they played, and it was two really good football games. So, you know, and I think it's going to be a heck of a ball game. I've got Clemson winning 28-24, but I certainly think it's going to be a game that goes down to the last minute.
All right, it's a 3-point